Hello everyone! I have 6 photos here in lots of different sizes that I'm going to put on a 2-page layout today. And I'm going to be using this Enjoy the Ride paper. We're going to talk a lot about color and choosing colors to go on your layout, especially when you have lots of really colorful photos. Now, if we take a closer look at this photo, I think a lot of you are going to recognize the people in this photo. This is the creative design team, and we all got together for the very first time earlier this month on a trip to Vancouver, Canada. So super fun. Janice came all the way from Australia, and then Julie and Chelsea are from Canada. The rest of us are all over the US. Some of us have met before, but we have not all been together in one spot. So if you don't follow us on Instagram, go over. I've got my Instagram and all my social media linked down below because we did some really fun video, like reel posts, showing like where we were and everything. And so it was super fun. So if you follow us on Instagram, let me know down in the comments below if you guessed correctly where you thought we were and what you thought of those reels. So I've got some various size photos. I'm going to talk through how I decided on my sizes, and I also am going with a sketch, and so we're going to talk through some sketch options and why I chose the one I did. Here are a couple of 3x4s, and then I've got the 4x6s, but let me set those aside. We'll talk about that with the sketches in just a moment. I'm using this Enjoy the Ride collection. This is close to my heart paper, but Stampin' Up is selling it now that Close to My Heart is out of business. So they have a collection every month from Close to My Heart for the next few months. And this is for May. And I do believe, last I checked, the paper pack and sticker sheet was available. The scrapbooking kit was still available. I got the paper pack and sticker sheet, and I'm in love with this paper right here. I'm definitely going to be using that. But as I mentioned, I have really bright, vibrant colors. And so this, on top of this, they just kind of like, not clash, but this doesn't stand out because this is so busy. So we're gonna talk about that. But I just think that this works really well. I also really love this pattern. And then not all of these are really gonna work. And then the red that's in here is actually rosy. So if you hold that up to the red, it's not an exact match. So I don't need a lot of red because I have so much in my photos. I'm just going to have a very little amount in my papers, but I do want to bring in just a little bit. I brought in all of the other cardstocks. We've got Bluebird, Jade, Limeade, Honey Butter, Pumpkin, and then there's also Harbor over here. Harbor, I believe, is like this color that looks almost like black, and then on the it almost looks black on all of these accents. So we're going to work with that. And then I do have the sticker sheet as well. And I have a couple of really great title options. Love This Day. That would fit perfectly. And it's got just a little bit of red like I talked about using. We also have Making Our Own Memories. And this might work as well, although I'm thinking it's going to be this. So let's talk about sketches, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of selecting paper and stickers as we get going. All right, so let's talk through my sketch selection process and how I printed my photos. I do print my photos at home, and I have an in-depth video all about how I do that. I will link that down in the description below. But I chose this photo. I knew that I wanted this group shot of all of us to be 5x7 and to really be the focus of the layout. So what I did was I turned to the creative design team's 12x12 volume 1 sketchbook. This came out in January, and hint, there's a volume 2 coming out very soon. I know lots of you have been asking about it. This has been really popular, and it's got some really great double page sketches in it. So the first thing I did was I flipped through this, and I found all the sketches that would have accommodated a 7x5 photo well. This one would have worked well because I could have just enlarged this. There's plenty of space. And then I would have had 4x6 photos over here. This didn't really fit my photos very well. I was going through this before I actually printed my photos. And as I was looking at these on my phone, I was like, well, I don't have very many that are up and down because most of them have all of us in it. And so they are landscape orientation. So this one wasn't really my best option. Then we had this one that has a 7x5 in there already. Now this calls for 4x4 square photos here. This one I could have cropped down to a square. I love this one of Andrea and Katie, so cute. All of these were just such cute impromptu photos. That would have worked. The rest of these I couldn't really crop down to a square. I wanted to show more of this cute little tea house. And then this one we have most of us in the photo. And so what I could do is actually keep these as 6x4 and have those go down the page like this, and then they'll stick out further. And then maybe put this one over here or this one over here, and then this one could be like that, or vice versa, something like that. So that could work. And so it might boil down to the papers that are behind here and what I like best as far as papers behind the photos. We also have this one, which already accommodates a 7x5 photo. And so this one uses a lot of different papers. So I actually wasn't sure about this because not all of the papers in this pack are going to work well with my photos. So there were a couple that I really liked and wanted to focus on, but I could maybe bring in more cardstock. But this definitely would accommodate my 6x4 photos over here. And then I could do kind of the same thing where I have maybe one over here, or maybe I put them both over here, or maybe have one here, and maybe instead of the journaling spot do this, and I could do hidden journaling or move my journaling over here or something like that. So that is another option. Just don't forget that you can alter a layout and, you know, add photos, alter the sizes and all that. And then this is another one that fits a 7x5 photo. I've actually used this sketch before. It was really cute. I used this side and then I used a different sketch for the right side, but I loved how this one turned out. So that can definitely work. And then we will have to alter this a little bit because our photos are different. So we might have, you know, like this, like the photo calls for, but then this could be my journaling still, but I'm left with these. So I could either do a flip flap, or, you know, have this over here like I did or suggested with the others. I could do that. I don't really want to hide any of these under a flip flap though, I don't think. Maybe this one, because this one is pretty similar to these. So I guess I could maybe do something like this. So we have scenery, the place up here, there, and journaling. So that could work too. So lots of different options. I'm going to go ahead and play around with paper, make some decisions off screen, and then we'll come back and talk about it. So do you guys have a guess which one I chose? Which sketch would you have chosen? I'm curious. Let me know in the comments below before you see what I actually chose. So I brought my Versamats in, and I'm going to do a 2-page layout like I mentioned, so I'm going to spread them both out here so I stay in frame for you. And are you starting to see which one I'm doing? I decided to go with this sketch right here because I just really liked how my photos fit. Since I have a lot of Adirondack chairs, I did end up liking the idea of having this one behind a flip flap, and that way I can kind of space them out a little bit. And then I liked the idea of these like really bright, bold patterns kind of flanking the ends, framing everything in, bringing in that beautiful paper, but it's not going to be right behind the photos. We've got lots of layers in between them. So that's going to help to tone down that beautiful pattern, but we still get to see quite a bit of it. And then for this, I chose Jade, and I've got the light side facing up. I just kind of liked how that fit better. Now I've got this in the flip flap already, and I don't have another photo to go on the back of this. So I just used a little scrap that I had left over after cutting this piece down. I didn't have a big enough scrap to go over this whole background, so I used more jade in the back, and then this is just a decorative element, and I might add some stickers or something like that. If you wanted to do journaling here, you certainly could do your journaling there and just leave a white box with lines, and maybe you have another 3x4 photo that could go here, but I'll be doing my journaling here like that. But you have lots of options, so I'm going to set that aside and then kind of lay my photos out. Now I've cut a double mat for this. First of all, I matted all my photos in white. This is actually the French vanilla. And I typically do that because I just like my photos matted in white. I feel like it really helps them to pop. If I had just matted it in the Harbor, it doesn't really pop as much off of that dark color. So I've got the white mat and then the Harbor. And what I'm doing with the Harbor is treating it like I would black. So if I'm working with really bright colors, I might bring in black or charcoal, or in this case Harbor, to kind of tone everything down, ground it, and help not make it so in your face bright. So I will be inking around all the edges of these to kind of help bring that element in. And then this piece right here is what is designed to go behind this. But I feel like this needs still a little bit more separation from this green. So I think I'm actually going to cut a piece that's going to go all the way around here. So I will use this on another project. So I've cut a piece that's 6 1/8 by 8 1/8. So it's got a little bit more showing than the Harbor, and I like how I have more white space now around my photo, and this feature photo that I really wanted to be the star of the show is shining more. Now over here, I'm going to do something like this. I will mat these in Harbor as well. Let's see, we're gonna do this, and then I'm going to have these photos with the chairs over here, because that's going to bring this down over here. I feel like that's more balanced. And then I've got this photo, and I'm going to stick that, I think, right about here. Or maybe I'll do it about here. We'll see. I'll have to kind of play with that. So I'm going to have an embellishment cluster right here. So that actually might work out well over here. And I'll do my embellishments here, and I'll fit in this little nook. And then I'll have my title up in this area. So I need to create myself a little journaling box and cut some mats. Before I cut all the mats, I wanted to talk you through why I chose the Harbor. I already explained that it helps to ground everything, but I just wanted to show you it helps to have a visual that if I had like Bluebird back here, because that would match, it just brightens everything up. And I feel like since our photos are so bright and have so many colors in them, that it doesn't help them pop. By having this dark color, it helps give your eye a little bit of rest off of all of this color going on in the background, and then the photo stands out more. So if we did the green, we'll have the same issue as with this green. We've already got so much yellow green back here. Of course, we already talked about red. We have so much red in the Adirondack chairs that just really blends in. It all matches, of course, but you know, you have to pay attention to the colors in your photos so that they do stand out. We want to make those photos pop. We kind of have the same issue with the orange because it is a darker, warmer tone like the rosy, and so that just kind of blends in with the chairs as well. And then with the yellow, I think we're going to have the same issue as with the blue. It's just so bright that your eye just doesn't have anywhere to rest. So this Harbor is really playing a crucial role in making sure our photos pop. I've got all the Harbor mats. I absolutely love it. And I'm thinking I don't even need to ink around every paper anymore now that those are down. Just the pattern papers, because we have a white background on white. I want those to pop a little bit more, probably this paper. And then I put this paper here. This is going to be my journaling box, and I'll put some lines on it. But I wanted to draw this pattern over to this side too. But then I started thinking these are really close to each other, and I actually want to bring in more of this color. So I had this little scrap left, and I do think that that's good. I just want it to be bigger. So then I was looking at the layout, and I was like, you know what? This is all hiding. So I am going to just cut about 1/4 of an inch down from each of these, and then I'll have this whole piece to work with. And I will cut a piece for here, and then if I really wanted to, I would have enough to do this whole thing in this pattern as well, but I'm not going to worry about that. That's already done, and I like it just like that. But I am going to cut this out to save that paper and move it over here.
It's always so interesting when I'm in the editing process and looking back at the layout. I actually liked the Bluebird cardstock as the mats, but I know that once I got all my embellishments on, which I would have used, the bright colors, and you'll see me using Rosy and Bluebird as my main accent colors. It would have just been too overpowering. So another option, if you did want to use Bluebird as the mats, is to bring in some Harbor in the embellishing instead of more Bluebird, as you'll see me do, and that would help to tone that down as well. I definitely like that pattern behind my journal box. And now I'm going to go to inking around the edges of all my papers, just making sure I like that. And I do. Now, first I am inking with this blending tool. And this gives a little bit of a softer look with your blending. Or inking around the edges. And once I get this down, and I'm actually going to start on this other pattern paper as well, especially on this one, I'm realizing that it's not as bold as I want. So I decided to go direct to the ink pad and brush it along the edges. This gives I guess you could say harsher line. It makes it darker because you're bringing the ink directly to the paper to dye the paper rather than using the sponge. And so I decided to go back and do that on this paper, and I will continue in this way on all of the other pieces as well. I prepared some stickers and some tags. For the stickers, I pounced them on this anti-static powder bag, and that will put a little bit of it's like a cornstarch mixture on the back of the stickers so that I can move them around. And then for the tags, I used the Buildable tags set and the tabs and tags set from Close to My Heart. And the sketch called for some tags, so that was kind of my trigger, oh yeah, that would be good for my embellishment clusters. So I cut one out of that small print floral paper to bring that print over to the right side. What you do to one side, you want to do to the other, and I have that backing my 5x7 photo. And I'm going to go ahead and ink around the edges of these two. I like this direct to paper method, and I'm going to be using that for all of my tags and some of the other little embellishments as well. I did decide to go with this title. I think it looks really good, but since I do have it on some white background, I wanted to make that stand out a little bit. So I'm inking around the edges of this sticker as well, and I think that really helps. You need to be really careful when you're doing this, though. It's really easy to transfer the ink because it stays wet for a little while. So I did get a little bit of smudging on the sticker, but it wasn't too bad. I also got some smudging on my background paper. You'll see that in a little bit, and I'm going to show you how I fixed it on the white background paper. Let's get some of these other embellishments in place. I wasn't sure about this floral tag because I already have a lot of that floral paper, so I kind of tucked it under there thinking a lot of it's going to be hidden, and we'll see how that works out. I really like this bicycle sticker and the way it looks, even though, we weren't biking or anything. I just think it looked really pretty. I decided to move it over to the right side so it didn't compete with the title up at the top of the left side. And then there was this little word sticker that I thought looked good across the top of my journaling box. And then there were a few of these little circle embellishments, and I was trying to spread them out a little bit. I don't want them all clumped together on the left side of the page, so I'll have to come back to those and kind of work those out. I wanted some more options for my embellishment clusters. I love sprigs and these little curly Q things. That's just so my style. I love having these little wispy things in my clusters and building them up. And so I had all of these leaves already cut in limeade from some cards that I was making, so it was perfect. And then I also had the gold glitter curly Qs. They were sitting on my desk, and I was like, oh, those are just going to be perfect. So I stuck those under my little clusters, and I'm going to add some more flowers as well. As I mentioned earlier, I accented in mostly Bluebird and Rosy, and so those are the colors I used to cut my flowers out of. I have a little notch in this flower because I used a scrap piece that wasn't quite big enough, so we will just tuck that under the sticker. So if you have scraps you're trying to use, those are great for die cutting, and a lot of times if you don't have quite big enough of a piece, you can just hide it. Here I thought I would just try if I like this cluster without this floral tag better, and I ended up that I did like it in there. So I'm going to ink the edges of this little tag and put that back. I just think it helps to kind of cover up a little bit more of that green because we do have so much green. These are the flowers that I used. It's from the Decorative Shapes die set from Close to My Heart. If you were lucky enough to get that set, it was very popular and sold out very quickly. And I've got a few more of these little flowers. I'm trying to balance all of the colors in my clusters to make sure that I've got a little bit of bluebird and a little bit of rosy in each cluster. So you can see how I'm trying to make it go like down, up, and create little visual triangles. And then I also cut one flower out of that small floral print so that we have a visual triangle with that print as well. I definitely want to ink the edges of this because it's white on white, but I have to be very careful. So I'm carefully kind of bending where all the nooks and crannies are so I can get my ink on there, and it ends up working quite well. I only have to cover a few petals since most of it's going to be tucked behind the other elements. This Enjoy the Ride paper is exclusive to former Close to My Heart makers and customers. So if you're loving it and you were not a former Close to My Heart customer, then let me know and I'll see what I can do for you. Here's where I got a little bit of ink transferred on my base page, and so I've got this mono sand eraser. I just picked it up on Amazon, and it works really well to get some ink off of white paper because it sands off just that top little layer of the paper. So you can't do it on colored paper as easily because it'll sand off the color, but it works really well on white paper. I forgot to ink around these little round stickers, so I'm going to go ahead and do that so those pop just like all of the others and everything matches. And then I felt like we needed a little bit of splatter or something in the background. So I have my gold shimmer brush from Close to My Heart. You could use a Wink of Stella pen as well if you don't have this. Stampin' Up! Offers the Wink of Stella. But this gives just a nice little sheen, and it ties in with those gold glitter little curly cues that I have in my embellishment clusters as well. I like to squeeze a little bit out on a block, that way it's portable and easy to clean off. You could also use an all-purpose mat if you want. This is probably really hard to catch on video right here, but I'm going to try to catch a close-up when I show you the details of this layout when we're all done. And then I'll also have still shots over on Instagram and Facebook, and those links are down in the description below, as well as links to all the products I'm using that are still available. I'm covering up a couple of the holes of the tags with some dots, and then off camera I tied a little bit of jute on a couple of the other tags, but I didn't want them to all have jute. It was a little bit too much. And then I'm using some rosy dots just to put a few in each of the little clusters. A little tip for using the biggest dot, I like to kind of tuck them underneath some die cuts or embellishments sometimes, because the biggest dots sometimes can be a little bit too big, but when you tuck them under something, it's perfect. So here are the details. I hope you can catch the sheen of that gold shimmer brush. I just absolutely love it, and I think it adds the perfect little detail without adding too much. I am always a fan of shimmer and shine. All right, so I want to show you how to attach a flip flap. Maybe you have some that you bought from Close to My Heart, and Stampin' Up! Has said that they are going to eventually bring these on as well. So I have my photo in there and my little decorative piece. Obviously, you could put 2 photos in here or journaling like I mentioned. You're just going to fold that piece back, peel off the release paper, and stick it right onto your page protector, and it will stay right on the page protector. I'm going to burnish it in so that the stickiness is really stuck on there, and I have not had a problem with these coming off ever. Now, not only is there a spot for another photo or 2, but it's a really fun interactive element as well. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't yet. And be sure to watch the video that's on screen now. I added tons of photos to that one, and I think you'll enjoy that. I'll see you over there.